Good morning, guys. Happy Monday morning motivation. This morning I am thinking about tomatoes. Once upon a time, I was a very enthusiastic gardener. Every spring, I would go buy the heirloom seeds with a little packet, and I would plant them, and I'd very excitedly water them and nurture them and never see any product whatsoever. I never once in all of my years of gardening ever ate anything out of my own garden. And that did dampen my enthusiasm. Every year I tried a different technique. I tried raised gardens, I tried barrels, and I tried hanging tomatoes, and I tried all sorts of different things, but I never seemed to be able to get that plant to produce. Meanwhile, my mom always seemed to have at least a couple of tomatoes out of her garden. Sometimes she would plant plants that were already somewhat grown, and she would nurture them into being able to produce a couple of tomatoes. A dozen or so a year, but relatively small tomatoes. Enough for a couple salads. It was enough to make her feel happy about her green thumb. Sort of a hobby. And I, for years, thought that was pretty much as good of a garden as you could get in the soil that you have here in Texas. Until this weekend, when I heard about a prize-winning tomato garden. This tomato garden produced plants that were 6 and 7 foot tall, with tomatoes bigger than my fist, that won awards every year until they were so productive and so impressive that they asked them to stop putting these tomatoes in these contests because nobody else was getting a chance to win. They were the best tomatoes in Texas. And so seeing the product of these amazing tomatoes, I wanted to know how. How did you get such an incredible crop out of the same soil that I couldn't get anything to happen? And my mom, who has been gardening for a very long time, could barely get anything to happen. How did they get such incredible harvests? Well, what they did is they spent the months leading up to the planting season cultivating the soil. They spent months and months tilling the soil, nurturing it, putting what they called horse contributions into that soil and enriching it. They built glass coverings over the soil so that it would stay warm. They put heat conductors into that soil so that it would keep the soil warm, and that would keep the horse contributions contributing. They kept watering that soil. They spent time checking the pH balance of that soil and making sure that it was at its most receptive capacity by the time those seeds that had been proven got put into that ground. And every year, after they had harvested those big tomatoes, they saved the seeds from out of those big tomatoes to plant again. And every year the harvest would get bigger and bigger and bigger because of the soil that they had spent time with. So why am I thinking about that today? I'm thinking about that today because there is a season of time where we have a goal in mind, where we know what it is that God has set in our hearts to accomplish. But we must first prepare the soil. You have to spend that time in prayer, in the Word, practicing that gift in order to prepare the soil of your heart so that when the time comes to be able to plant the seed, the Word of God, the revelation truth that is going to produce the harvest, you're ready. See, there might be a time when you have to focus on the horse contributions. The uncomfortable, unpleasant, unbeautiful part of cultivating and preparing the soil. The part where you are putting so much nutrients into that soil, so much prayer, so much worship, so much focus and intention into that soil, into your heart, that it pushes out all the negativity, pushes out all the doubt, pushes out all the unbelief. And by the time the planting season comes, your heart is so ready to receive that good word from God that it produces that 30, 60, and 100-fold. It produces the harvest that God intended you to have. I encourage you today, spend some time cultivating your heart. Spend some time with those horse contributions that are going to get the pH balance of your heart just right so that seed can be productive. All right. I love y'all. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.